seated. Good morning, everyone. Before I get started, I'd just like to ask everyone to silence their cell phones, please. I'm Rachel Perron, an instructor in the Nautical Science department, and I will be your master of ceremonies for today. Welcome, family, friends, faculty, staff, and graduates to the 5th commencement program of Northeast Maritime Institute's College of Maritime Science. I'm very excited and privileged to be here for the 5th commencement of Northeast Maritime Institute's College of Maritime Science and the graduating classes of 2019, 2020, and 2021. Please rise for the playing of the United States National Anthem. Please be seated. Today we celebrate the accomplishments and academic achievements of our graduates, most of whom have been impacted by COVID-19, either due to delays in the celebration or the unexpected changes in their educational and internship experiences. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct privilege to introduce you to the Honorable President Eric DeWicki for the welcome address.
Ladies and gentlemen, mariners, thank you for being here. It has taken quite a while to get to this moment. It's probably been the strangest period in the history of certainly our lives, and yet you all were consistent and you pressed on and you achieved. When you really think about what you've gone through and the consistency that you had to put into developing your achievements, it was pretty spectacular. And when I think about what your NMI family put into making sure that you succeeded, it was pretty spectacular. Parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, and friends, when you realize what these young men went through to go through this program and achieve, it wasn't easy. They had to isolate, they had to engage in a heightened level of discipline that, frankly, none of us were ready for. And they really didn't complain, although they complained a little bit. They really didn't create much anxiety for the faculty and staff. outside of the anxiety that the times brought on the faculty and staff. And they really were amazing young adults. And parents, brothers, sisters, friends, thank you for allowing us to partake in the lives of your young mariners. It was an amazing period to watch the balance of humanity and watch the balance of hard work and work ethic to achieve what they've achieved. I'm going to do a little bit of bragging about Northeast Maritime Institute right now. This little tiny school. I really love saying that. I really like talking about the little tiny school. It's almost like a David and Goliath type of story. We weren't supposed to be a school in the beginning, and we fought hard, and we got a license to become a college, the first private maritime college in the history of the United States. And in fact, when you really look at the achievements of the school based on the hard work that the faculty, the staff, the administration, and the students put into it, it's hard to measure our success. But our success was measured last month when the United States Coast Guard asked Northeast Maritime Institute to represent the United States in its UN audit of compliance of maritime education and training. Our little school represented the United States in compliance to make sure that the United States could answer to compliance metrics the way that the big schools do and other schools do, and we were asked to represent. I don't know if you guys knew that. It was a really proud moment. And we got a great letter back from the Coast Guard basically saying that how much they appreciated our participation because we were able to create answers that were real and relevant and auditable and traceable that proved that the United States was doing a good job with its maritime education, training, and certification program under the STCW code. For you folks that don't know what STCW is as an acronym, it is the International Convention on Standards of Training, Certification for Watchkeepers and Seafarers, 1978 as amended in 1995 and 2010. So a real proud moment that our students, our faculty, our staff, and our administration got to represent. With that, I honor you. I honor you mariners. And the fact that you made it through the three tenets of success, honesty, integrity, and hard work, those aren't just words, it's a lifestyle that we get to put on your chest with the Northeast logo. For you who don't know about our three tenets of success, of honesty, integrity, and hard work, we talk to our students and ourselves about honesty. And that doesn't mean cash register honesty. We learned that in kindergarten. Don't take from somebody else something that's not yours. That's easy, right? Honesty is a tough thing for all of us humans walking the earth. To really be able to look ourselves in the mirror and identify what makes us tick and what makes us tick as good human beings. We've kind of gone through a period in our nation where honesty doesn't quite measure as much as it did a little while ago. For whatever reasons, social, political, entertainment. But I'm going to tell you, our students, our kids, understand the very importance of honesty and facts and rules-based order. Integrity. Our kids know integrity. Say what you do and do what you say. When you're on a ship, if you tell your boss you're going to do a job and you don't do it, it could cost somebody their life. Our kids have to understand that. Our students. And I'm sorry I'm going to call you our kids, but you're our kids, okay? We're your surrogate folks. Our kids learn that. And they learn that through work ethic, hard work, the third tenet of success. Because we are a new school in a very large industry, relatively new, we're not so new anymore, we have to outwork anybody at sea that we work with. That means no complaining, no talking back, we're polite, we're kind, but we outwork everybody that's around us. Our faculty, our staff, our administration, I believe outworks any maritime education and training institution, at least in the United States. So during these times of COVID, when we asked you to step up and do your job, honestly, I didn't hear too many complaints. And for you, gentlemen that are graduating, I'm going to just tell you, I'm going to look each one of you in the eye and tell you how proud I was of you. Because it wasn't easy. And for all of you that understands our program, it's a rigorous program. Because it is a 2-year school, doesn't mean it's easy. They come out with some pretty big certificates and licenses. It wasn't easy. And so I want you to look down the line at each other and nod your applause to your efforts, because you did it together and you did it with your colleagues over to your left. But I always want you to remember how hard the faculty worked to adjust to make sure they delivered on your behalf. And I want you to remember how hard your neighbors worked. It takes a village, right? The community. You guys know our neighbors in the town. A couple of them sitting here today. Really always have gone out of their way to make sure they supported you. Remember to say thank you when you're done today, because you're getting ready to go on to an amazing career. A career that now the world is looking at because of supply chain disruptions, et cetera, et cetera. So folks, one of the things we tell everybody when I go off on to talk somewhere is that, what's the first thing you did this morning when you woke up? Probably showered, probably brushed your teeth, got dressed. Where did that soap come from? Where did the toothbrush come from? Where'd your comb come from? Where'd your clothes come from? Came over on a ship. Well, who's driving those ships? These guys. It's one of the most important careers in the world. Every great nation was built off of its maritime trade and commerce. And when we really think about the U.S. and how it grew, and Europe and how it grew, and how China has now grown, it's been through their maritime trade and commerce. So it's up to you guys, as the next generation, to not only work in this industry, but work in leadership roles, to work in, on, or near the water. You don't have to go to sea for the rest of your life. But I'm going to tell you something. I expect you to have a maritime-related career, because it's a beautiful industry, all aspects of it. To say that I'm proud is an understatement. I've said it a couple of times already. When I sat back last night and shut the lights off and kind of did a little bit of self-reflection, I went right off of myself and went to you guys. And I thought, wow, these guys really achieved. They worked hard to get there. I'm sad your colleagues who are not here, they don't get to celebrate today. They're either at work or they've had quarantine issues that they got stuck at home, because they worked just as hard. So remember to send them a little message and congratulate them today, because they really are just as in need of that congratulations as you are, and their parents and their families. Okay. So because of COVID and because of a new venue, we couldn't go to the town hall, so we switched things up a little bit. And essentially, what we're going to do, we usually have a breakfast before graduation, but we're going to have an event after graduation that logistically makes it easier for us. We're missing out on the morning breakfast and distribution of blazers. So the Northeast Maritime Blazer represents honesty, integrity, and hard work. And I'll tell you something. When we thought about a gesture that we could give to our students when they graduated, we thought about rings, and we thought about this, and we thought about that. And when you give rings out, you hear those comments, oh, those ring knockers. I didn't want to have you guys titled as ring knockers. I wanted to have you known as mariners with honesty, integrity, and hard work. And because of that honesty, integrity, and hard work, you're here today graduating. And I get to watch you don your blazers in a very kind of New England-y tradition. And what many people don't know is the maritime industry in the United States started right in this harbor, right outside. And they had a tradition, the ship owners, of giving blazers to the owners and their crew, and they had their little logos, like you have your burgees, right? Which represented the vessels that they owned, or the company that owned the vessels. You guys made your burgees. Burgees are the flags, ladies and gentlemen, that each group of students, which we call a cohort, makes, and it's their first initiative to work together as a team, as a crew. And it's a great exercise of creating an atmosphere of shipmates. Did that. They are cool. They are really cool. When we were putting them up today, I looked again and I thought, they are very creative, and they represent you and your friends. So as we say in the Coast Guard, bravo Zulu, well done. So what I get to do right now, right after Captain Jeff speaks, is I get to help don your blazers. But before we don the blazers, we're going to talk about the stoles of gratitude. And these are the stoles of gratitude. And Captain Jeff McDonough will be coming up to talk about what they actually are. And it's a really beautiful momentum, as well as the blazers. Captain McDonough.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is a certain privilege of mine to be able to impart the story of the stoles of gratitude, which NMI has adopted as a way for our students to thank those who have been instrumental in their success during this period of learning at Northeast Maritime Institute's College of Maritime Science. This is the legend of the stole of gratitude. In pre-medieval Europe, a monk traveling the countryside on a missionary pilgrimage found a starving young boy wandering through his burned-out village in a daze, orphaned after the village had been destroyed by destroyed by a band of marauders. The only thing he carried was a piece of fabric from his mother's clothes that had torn off in his hand as she was taken away by one of the invaders on horseback. Delivering him to the monastery, the monk set about teaching him to read and write. He schooled the boy in literature, history, and scientific thought, and trained him in the skills of debate and negotiation. The boy learned much and grew eager to know more of the world. When he left the monastery, he traveled to the royal city and became a squire to a knight who trained him in horsemanship, swordsmanship, and the subtleties of court society. After several years and no longer a boy, the young man's talents were brought to the notice of the king, who made him an advisor to the royal court. Contemplating his life's journey one day, he felt that he must acknowledge the support of his mentors. He took some of the fabric from his mother's dress, which he had always carried with him, some of the wool from his monastic robes, some of the silk tunic he now wore. With this, he fashioned 2 cloth stoles, embroidered with the runic symbol of his village, the crest of the knight he had served, and the emblem of the royal court. He then presented these stoles to the monk and the knight, along with letters proclaiming his gratitude. Eventually, he became a widely respected royal ambassador, but he never forgot the kindness and generosity which had enabled him to achieve his success. It became a tradition that spread throughout the country and beyond. The stole became a symbol of achievement for students in all faculties, with varying colors and emblems symbolizing different levels of study and institutions. Today, the stole of gratitude is worn by a graduating student during the commencement ceremony as a symbol of their academic achievement and presented with honor to those who provided aid and support in reaching their goal. The stole is worn during the commencement ceremony. After the ceremony, the new graduate presents the stole to someone who has provided extraordinary help or support, like parents, relatives, mentors, who have helped with wisdom, words of support, or maybe even financial assistance. Immediately after graduation, the graduate may take the stole from around his or her neck and place it around the neck of the recipient, along with great words of thanks. At this time, I would like to ask the graduates to approach the podium to receive their stoles of gratitude and their blazers.
If you could just line up here. So ladies and gentlemen, the blazer ceremony. The stoles of gratitude. And if I could get applause based on, don't they look good?
now to have Dr. Angela DeWicki, Chief Academic Officer of Northeast Maritime Institute, will now present the Lemley List Awards.
Good morning.
Morning, doctor.
Thank you, thank you. So I finished my doctorate in 2020 in the midst of COVID and finally celebrated a month ago. So I now get to wear this wonderful So I get the pleasure to present the Lemley List Awards, which is our version of honors. And for family and friends and guests who are here, and for our current students, every one of you has had a class at Lemley Hall, correct? At least one class? And you've noticed the portrait that's hanging in the hallway. I don't know how many of you have read the description that goes along with it, but Captain Norman Lemley was an incredible human being, dedicated to maritime safety, a wonderful part and mentor for us at Northeast Maritime Institute, and long-standing, long-term part of the U.S. Coast Guard and the National Maritime Center, which is who we work with for approvals of our programs, this degree program specifically. They are the entity that issues your licenses, correct? So if you haven't worked with them yet, you will work with them sooner or later with your issuance of your captain's licenses and your upgrades. So I will just take a few minutes to talk about his extensive history so you have an appreciation for his contributions, and then I will present the Lemley List Awards. So students who demonstrate superior academic performance are named to the Captain Norman W. Lemley List at the end of each semester. Students are eligible for the Lemley List in any semester during which they successfully complete 15 or more semester hours of credit with grades no lower than a C, and who hold a cumulative grade point average of 3.0 or higher. And they also have to have completed their required community service hours. So Norman Lemley served the U.S. Coast Guard in 2 capacities over 36 years. He completed Officer Candidate School in 1962, and as a Coast Guard civilian employee, he rose to the Senior Executive Service, the civilian equivalent of a flag officer. During his 25 years in senior leadership positions, Norman was a driving force in both the development and implementation of nearly every major marine safety, security, and pollution prevention initiatives. He served on government delegations to the United Nations International Maritime Organization over a period of 53 years, and participated in diplomatic conferences in London that developed the International Maritime Security Treaty. In retirement, Norman Lemley continued his tireless efforts to honor the mariner. You've heard that before, correct? I don't know where we got that from. Consulting on maritime safety and security, piracy, environmental protection, and national and international regulations. He served as the Director of Maritime Safety and Security for Northeast Maritime Institute for 15 years and was co-founder of the Commonwealth of Dominica International Ship Registry. Throughout his life, Norman Lemley put service first to his nation and to the international maritime community. He left a tremendous legacy and will long be remembered for his exceptional services. In total, 4 of our graduates, so we had 19 graduates who were eligible for graduation today. We are lucky to have 7 of you with us. As we discussed earlier, the remainder are working, which we're happy about, or had a quarantine issue. 4 of the graduates have obtained the honor of Lemley List for the full 2 academic years. So that's who we're representing today. And 3 of these honorees are not in attendance today: Alexandra Bruce, Dylan Faniff, and Derek Rogers. But we are honored today to present the Lemley List honor to Patrick O'Halloran, who is in attendance. Would you please come up and get your...
Angela. Now I have the honor to present the Kehoe Award to a few of our graduates. First, before I present those awards, I'd like to talk a little bit about Jules Kehoe, for whom the award is named after. So, Senior Chief Kehoe, or Jules as we know her, was highly respected and much loved faculty member in the Nautical Science Department, and she left us much too soon. Senior Chief Kehoe retired from the United States Coast Guard as a chief bosun mate just days before starting with the NMI's program after a very honorable career serving her country and contributing to the safety of our seas. The rank insignia for the Chief Petty Officer in the United States Coast Guard tells a story of the trials and lessons that come with the responsibility of the position. One symbol in particular stands out. The chain followed around an anchor is known as the sailor's disgrace, reminding a chief that there may be times when there are circumstances beyond their control in the performance of their duty, yet a chief must still complete their task. It is during these times that humility and fortitude are often brought to bear. Jules embodied that. She by example showed all of our students how to carry themselves with dignity and pride and to get the job done correctly. I'd like to take time to recognize a few of our graduating students, mariners, for following in Jules' example. I think we only have a few still in our presence that knew Jules. But with that said, her memory lives on in all of us, and especially the faculty remaining, to ensure that our graduates feel her presence in the school still today. So mariners like Jules presented a great example of being a good shipmate, overcoming challenging, taking care of others, and holding others to a higher standard. So those students who fell into those categories will be awarded the Senior Chief Kehoe Award. 3 of the recipients are not here today, but we would still like to recognize them. That would be Derek Rogers, Dennis McLean, and Connor Rogan. In attendance today, we have one awardee, and that would be student Brendan Cahill. Would you please join me at the podium? Congratulations, Brendan.
Thank you.
And I would now like to introduce Captain Aaron Paolino, who is the Director of Nautical Science, and he's going to give a message to our graduates.
Good afternoon. I started here at NMI 2 years ago, and it has been an interesting 4 semesters. Cohorts 9 and 10, we're still trying to figure out what to make of the maritime industry when everything changed and went online. And all of you adapted. You changed schedules, some of you had to change internships, and you made do with scanty resources until we could figure out how to proceed, often away from texts and computers for periods of time, trying to figure it all out. And through it all, I've seen you grow and come together. You learned to count on your shipmates and be counted on. You may have had one of the best preparations for being adaptable that anyone in your position could. A degree in nautical science is part of what you leave here with. A knowledge of navigation and seamanship, a continuation of the maritime traditions that many people think are relegated to the pages of history. For you, they are real, they are important, and will factor into your life long after you leave the classroom. But this is a part of what you have gained here. In addition to the technical knowledge, there is another piece. As President DeWicki mentioned earlier, here we have 3 tenets of success at NMI: honesty, integrity, and hard work. If you're standing or sitting here by the stage, there is no doubt in my mind that you all know how to do the last one. If you keep up that hard work, you'll always have a job in this industry. honesty. If you're honest, especially when you mess up, you'll be able to earn trust and respect. With honesty and hard work, there is very little that you won't be able to accomplish. And integrity. Doing the right thing even when no one is looking, especially when that choice isn't easy. You'll be faced with shortcuts, easy ways out. These usually result in success only when every card falls in your favor. More often, they result in losses. So maintain your integrity. People will follow your example. The maritime industry is small, and your reputation will precede you. So make it a good one. This graduation is a little different than most traditional college commencements. When you walk out of this room, you will be a graduate of NMI. That part is true. And like most schools, you're able to put that on your resume and be proud of your accomplishment. But there is another difference here. You are not only a graduate, you also are a merchant marine officer. And in that, you've gone from a student to a peer in 2 short years. This license is very substantial. Just by having it, you can find yourself in positions where people will look to you for advice and assistance. But don't forget what Captain Rachel has told you again and again. This is a license to learn. I was in your position once, 23 years old, with a Coast Guard ticket in hand, running boats up and down the East Coast. Luckily, all the cards fell in line. It took me a few years to realize that there was a whole lot that I didn't know. But thankfully, I did realize that. We've given you a lot of information here and shared a lot of our experiences, but we're not done. When you leave here, you are now part of a close-knit community of mariners, our community. So continue to ask us questions. Let us know if you need a meal or bed when you're passing through. You may have started as students, but now you're shipmates.
Thank you, Captain Paolino. Now, I'm honored to introduce today's guest speaker, Dr. Vincent Patton III. And I'm going to try not to screw this up, Vince. Okay. Vince is our chairman of the Board of Trustees. Dr. Vince Patton served as the 8th Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard from May 1998 until his retirement from more than 30 years of active service in November 2002. Among his numerous military awards includes the Distinguished Service Medal, which is the nation's highest military peacetime recognition for the performance of duty. As the service's top senior enlisted leader and ombudsman, Master Chief Patton was the principal advisor to the Commandant of the Coast Guard, his directorates, and the Secretaries of Transportation and Defense, with primary focus on the quality of life issues, career development, work environment, and personal matters affecting over 45,000 active duty reserve and civilian personnel service-wide. He routinely addressed these specific issues before the appropriate Senate and House committees in Congress and the Commander-in-Chief, along with his senior enlisted counterparts of the 4 other armed services. Vince received his doctorate of education degree from the American University, a master's degree in counseling psychology at Loyola University at Chicago, a BS in social work from Shaw College, and a BA in communication from Pacific College. His extensive military education includes the Department of Defense Equal Opportunity Management Institute, the U.S. Army Sergeant Major Academy, and the Coast Guard Chief Petty Officer Academy. After his retirement from the U.S. Coast Guard in 2002, Vince was an assistant professor at the University of California, Berkeley, teaching philosophy and ethics for 2 years, and was also a seminary student at the Graduate Theological Union, earning a Master's of Theology in Applied Religious Studies and becoming an ordained minister. Soon after, he spent 7 years with the Military Advantage, a division of Monster Worldwide and the world's largest military membership organization known as Military.com, in the capacity as Director of Government Partnership and Alliances. Later, he spent 4.5 years with the Armed Forces Communication and Electronics Association as Executive Director for the Educational Foundation. Currently, Vince is a leadership development coach for New Day USA, Financial LLC, where he works closely with staff members on their development of leadership and management skills as part of the Character-Driven Leadership Program. In addition, he conducts training seminars on leadership and military introductory subjects through the New Day University, and is a member of the New Day USA Foundation Board of Advisors. Vince is also managing director of Pinnacle 5 LLC, a consulting company focused on providing advisory services to businesses and organizations typically associated with veteran issues and or the Department of Defense. He is the president of 54,000 member Non-Commissioned Officer Association. In addition, he is actively involved with a number of other public service and nonprofit organizations, serving on boards with the National Coast Guard Museum, the U.S. Naval Sea Cadet Corps, the U.S. Naval Institute, and Northeast Maritime Institute, and the Uniformed Service Benefits Association, and also teaches our leadership and ethics course. Vince, please come to the podium and begin the conferring of the degrees.
Thank you, Captain Rachel. You did good. Well, good morning, everybody. It's still morning. So. Good morning. This is really a wonderful opportunity to be here and speak today, and most importantly to our graduates. You guys look good. It's probably the first blazer you ever owned, right? Judging by how you look. You look great. Well, you know, and to the staff, the faculty, as well as to my fellow members of the Board of Trustees, the success of this institution really goes an awful lot to all of you, because you put an awful lot of effort, an awful lot of heart into this program as we look at our graduates, our future graduates, our alums and so forth. It could not have gotten here had it not been for you. So I think we should all give them a round of applause. Well, you know, what I'm going to do, you know, because I'm known for doing my speeches when I am called up. So today is one of those opportunities that my speech is really about this long. But I always ask, you know, like to listen to how events go, to tie it in. So you've heard three very important words or phrases. Honesty, integrity, and hard work, which are the tenets, or as I like to refer to it, as our core values of Northeast Maritime Institute. It is really the engine that makes things run and so forth. And to my leadership and ethics class students here who are here, you know I talk an awful lot about this, and I think I told several of you, I think I ought to have you get up here to do the speech, because you hear me talk about it an awful lot, about the importance of core values. Well, that's really what drives you. When you came to this organization, the importance here was about driving you. You've heard from Captain Aaron, you've heard from President Eric, you've heard from Dr. Angela, you've heard from Captain Rachel, all talking about the importance of what drives this organization. And you are all part of that. As we talk about and what honoring the mariner is all about, you are now the mariner to be on that train of driving the success of a profession that is very important. The world is covered by 70% of water. So therefore, as our president had pointed out about getting up in the morning and brushing your teeth and combing your hair and so forth, those instruments that make it happen came from somewhere. And for the most part, it started somewhere around in the world of this profession of the maritime industry. That's why it's so important for the things of what we ask of you to do, because of what you will do for our culture, for our world. I'm going to add something else here for you that's important to know. Imagination. Okay, let me give you an example when I talk about imagination. Okay, you heard this big bio about me and so forth, and I know the question is always, oh, when the hell do you sleep? You know, and sometimes I wonder, when do I sleep? But I think about this as what drives my train and what got me started. And it was about imagination. And it all started somewhere in the early part of July of 1972. 2 weeks into the Coast Guard. I'm in boot camp, basic training. Every morning, every afternoon, and every evening, we would go up and down the stairs, or as we called it, the ladder, and you would go past this big, giant picture. I mean, a huge portrait. There were spotlights on this portrait. And no explanation. You just saw this Coast Guard, I think it was a Master Chief, in this pose with these spotlights on it. And so young seaman recruit Patton, 2 weeks into the Coast Guard, becomes curious. A couple of times I stopped and stared at that picture. So I decided to ask my company commander, who is my drill instructor. Now, you know, 2 weeks into the Coast Guard, you don't ask your drill instructor anything. But this guy did. So smartly, I walk up to my company commander, snap to attention, Chief Harvey Glenn Birch, Chief Bosun Mate, who had probably the most ugliest look about him that you ever want to see, chomping on a cigar. And so, stutteringly, I asked the question, "Sir, there's a picture on the quarterdeck of what I think is a Master Chief." Well, now the reason why I said I think was a Master Chief, because the rank of Master Chief Petty Officer has 2 stars above the eagle. Well, this guy had 3 stars. So as I went through my manual that we got in boot camp, I'm looking for this guy. I'm looking for this rank. I didn't see it. So I had to ask the question. So my question to Chief Birch, "Sir, who is it?" Chief Birch gets under my face, like drill instructors do, finger about that far from my nose, and says, "That's the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard." So as I stand there at attention, nervous, Seaman Recruit Patton had to ask another question. "Sir, what does he do?" So Chief Birch was getting a little aggravated because I've asked 2 questions that recruits should not be asking any questions at this time. Decides to answer this question, and he gets back into my face and he says, "He tells the Commandant what to do." Now the Commandant is the big guy in the Coast Guard, 4-star admiral. Well, I thought that was the coolest job in the Coast Guard. So then fast forward 7 weeks. Boot camp back then was 10 weeks long, so about week 7, that's the week you sit down and they tell you what schools you qualify and what you can do and so forth. So now Seaman Recruit Patton, who has already asked 2 amazing questions to where my peers would not ask a question, decides to ask another question. Well, I asked this question to my career counselor. As I'm sitting there smartly, he's going through my scores and tells me what schools I'm qualified for. Seaman Recruit Patton says, "What school do I go to become the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard?" Well, Chief Birch, who was about maybe a few steps behind me at the time, heard that question, came over to me, and this is back in the days when they can touch you. Grabs me by the collar, yanks me out of the chair, marches me outside, and tells me to get out and give him 50 push-ups. Now this is Cape May, New Jersey. It's in August. It's hot, sweaty, and everything. I didn't even know I could give him 50 push-ups, but I gave him 50 push-ups. Snap back to attention after that. Sweat pouring down. And Chief gets back into my face and he says, "The day you become the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard, that's the day I'll walk on clouds." Well, you know, he was so right because he died 2 years before I became Master Chief of the Coast Guard. So, the part of the story is the fact about imagination. Because I saw this picture of someone, and then all of a sudden I saw myself in that picture. Now, as ridiculous and wild as it had sounded, because only one person gets to become the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard over a certain period of time. This isn't a case of what school you go to, and then all of a sudden, you know, you get your 26, 28 years in, and say, okay, it's my turn. It doesn't work that way, as I soon learned. But I saw this imagination about success and about the opportunity that, you know, why couldn't I become Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard someday? Why couldn't I have an opportunity to be successful? So then fast forward several years later. The year was 1979, still before most of you were born. 1979, I read this article in Life magazine, and it was an interview with one of the greatest soccer players of all time, Pele, Brazilian soccer player. Yeah, I'm sure y'all heard who he is. So when I read this article, there was a quote that was in there that all of a sudden the light bulb hits that helps with imagination. Pele said, "Success is no accident. It is hard work, perseverance, learning, studying, sacrifice, and most of all, love of what you're doing or learning to do." Now, that was the biggest light bulb I ever had go over my head. Love of what you're doing or learning to do. But more importantly, success is hard work. And the things that you have to do to work to get there, to take that imagination. And everybody's got an imagination. I have to hope and believe that each and every one of you graduates, you soon-to-be graduates, everybody here in this room has imagination. How do you turn that into fruition? And that's where the learning, the studying, the perseverance, the sacrifice are the things that help drive you to get there. And as we look at our core values of NMI, of honesty, integrity, and hard work, it is those things that are important to drive you in your success, because it's no accident. You are successful, and you will become more successful along the way. And I want to close with something that Captain Aaron said when he was explaining the stole, and about the fact that you are now given something that you're going to pass on to whomever you see fit, and how and when you see fit. The point to this is that first and foremost is to remind yourself that you didn't get here by yourself. You got here through the struggles and challenges of others, of your family members, your friends, colleagues, and so forth. And as you hold that stole and you place it on someone, always remember this, and this is from a quote from Vernon Jordan. You are where you are today because you stand on somebody's shoulders. And wherever you are heading, you cannot get there by yourself. If you stand on the shoulders of others, you have a reciprocal responsibility to live your life so that others may stand on your shoulders. It's the quid pro quo of life. We exist temporarily through what we take, but we live forever through what we give. Graduates, remember that. And my students from my leadership ethics class, you know we talk about this an awful lot, about what drives a train. Core values, right? Okay, and what's that other thing I always remind you about the definition of leadership? What's the definition of leadership, Patrick?
It's in the eye of the beholder.
Leadership is in the eyes of the beholder. Because leadership expands its horizons in many ways. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I got it right. Because if you didn't get it right, we would take that award from you. But leadership is what drives that most important element of core values to make things happen. So, gentlemen, our graduates, our soon-to-be graduates, my soon-to-be students, my future class, I look forward to chatting with each and every one of you. To the family, friends who are all here today to help in congratulating our wonderful graduates and students here. Thank you so much for being here. God bless you all. Have a great day. I'm supposed to do this. Vince stays at the podium to begin the conferring of degrees. My daughter always said, because all that education I got, she says, Dad, you must be a slow learner. She's so right. We will now begin the important process of conferring degrees to our graduates. Do I say this too? No. Yeah. Oh, speaking for the Board of Trustees of this college, listen, we're the only ones that got the script here, so this can't be wrong. This is all part of the act. Speaking for the Board of Trustees of this college, I authorize you, President DeWicki, to confer the Associate of Applied Sciences and Nautical Science degrees upon the candidates as approved by this faculty. Okay, Vince is seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered today to celebrate the achievements, hard work, and dedication of our graduates. We will now begin the most important part of the graduation ceremony, the conferring of the degrees. Please come up to the podium and receive your degree when your name is called. Brandon Thomas Brewer.
Good, okay. Thank you.
Brendan Richard Cahill.
Were you smiling?
Zachary Samuel Davies.
All right.
Stephen Nash Jackson. Jacob Anthony Neglin. Patrick H. O'Halloran. Jordan Lee Wood. We would also like to recognize those graduates not in attendance. Alexandra Jordan Bruce. James Tyler Lester. Derek Michael Rogers. Dennis James McLean. Dominic Joseph Ingram. Tyler M. Wheeler. Zachary Dickner. Benjamin Miller Cohn. And Stephen Richard Tassier III. Dylan Albert Faniff. And Jack R. Mankey. I will now pass things over to President Eric DeWicki for a special presentation.
I'm going to actually have to read, so I have to take my glasses off. One of my favorite duties during our graduation ceremony is to have the honor of awarding honorary degrees to individuals who've had an impact on our institution, either in efforts to promote our programs, commitment to service, or through the support of our students. This year's honoree has been an avid supporter of Northeast Maritime Institute for many years, and actually a student in our professional education program. As an experienced merchant mariner, this individual understands what it takes to be successful in the industry and believes in our program and our commitment to the preparation and success of our graduates. He maintains strong relationships in the maritime community through his local chapter in the International Propeller Club, and was instrumental in ensuring we set up the Northeast Maritime Institute Propeller Club chapter in the region. He has provided me alone with vital connections to the industry, partners, and benefits the career, and I'm a little choked up right now because I love this guy. Benefits the career and internship experience for our students, and constantly brags to everybody that he sees and knows about this institution. I'm also honored to call this man a dear friend. And I'm going to get off the script right now. Put my glasses on so I can see y'all. This guy is the sailor's sailor. He walks around his community in Portland, Maine, and he just embraces everything maritime and port. He's one of the figures that is responsible for the rebirth of Portland, Maine. Portland, Maine was a pretty rough town for a long time. And he and his colleagues within city government came up with a plan and rebuilt Portland. And if you haven't been to Portland, Maine, man, go there. Go there for a weekend and hang out. It's the food capital of the United States. There's not a type of food you can't find in Portland, Maine. It's beautiful. But more importantly, Captain Bill Van Boris was a student at NMI in our continuing ed program and received his license to drive tugboats. And if you are on social media and you're a friend of Captain Bill Van Boris, you're going to see the passion and love he has for tugboats. And the tugboat industry in the United States wasn't well recognized probably until about 20 years ago. It's the place you didn't want to go to work. And in fact, now it's the place you want to go to work, because people like Captain Van Boris really made it fun and safe, and they drove standards. When I talk to Bill on the phone, I always get a kick out of talking to him. He's got a little bit of that Maine accent there. You guys know what a Maine accent is? You can't get there from here. There's nothing I've ever heard this man come out of his mouth that was negative. And I will be hemming and hawing about somebody, and that pain in the neck, blah, 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 a little more choice, colorful sailor words than that. And Bill will just kind of blow me off, like, I don't want to talk about that. But he does it in a charming way, brings up another subject. the kindest of souls, a gentleman's gentleman, a sailor's sailor, a mariner's mariner. Bill, if you could come up and let me thank you for all you've done for us. It's been a pleasure.
Man, I'll tell you what, about the hick from Maine, what's all that?
I didn't say a hick.
I don't have a speech. I really didn't expect this. Eric talked about possibly receiving this for years, but he's also talked about buying banks and buying houses and buying marinas and so on, but I believe every word he says and choked up. But I appreciate it. It's 1972 or so. I went to a university, and winter of 72, I went to Sugarloaf, USA. In 73, I went to Sugarloaf, and 4, and so on, and I never did finish my school. And I went to my dad's office in this paper mill, and I said, I think it's time I stop wasting your money and my time. And he said, what are you gonna do? And I said, I'm gonna go to work. So that's what I did. I worked for a wonderful marine contracting company for 40 years and got my tugboat license. I was a diver, hired diver, and I got into the tugs and barges, and I moved stuff all over the world, all over stuff that shouldn't move, some stuff that didn't move, and I just retired in 2014. My dad was still alive, and I had no degree, so this is for him.
I think that was a blessing for all of us. Closing remarks. I don't have a clue what I'm going to say. This one's been a tough one for me, lots of emotions. Because a lot of students aren't here to get to share this experience that earned this. And one of the things that dawned on me as we were sitting down is I think Rachel said there's 19 students that are graduating. Like Captain Van Boris, I didn't finish school. I went off to Arkansas State University where I played football and wore the number 19. And I messed it up, guys. And what I didn't understand is that I was supposed to be in school to get an education, to work hard, and to achieve. I went down there and I thought I was supposed to be dating girls and catching footballs and traveling around the country like a rock star when I was totally clueless as to what I needed to do. That number 19 has followed me my whole life. If you look on my phone, the number 19 is a picture of a number 19. I think I've got over 300 photographs of the number 19. I get on an airplane, I'm sat in row 19. I go to get my bags, it's carousel 19. I go ahead and get off an exit, it's exit 19. I go to, I think it was Whole Foods, Morgan and I were in DC, we went to aisle 19. Just constant since I was 21 years old. At 21 years old, ladies and gentlemen, I had to admit I was powerless over alcohol. I was an alcoholic by the age of 21, and that's why I got in so much trouble. And I had to admit that and get sober. I was a Coast Guard reservist. I had goofed that up. and we talked about Norm Lemley and his importance to the maritime industry. Here's this guy that was the most brilliant human being I've met to this day on policy and decency and humanity. And yet he was this rough, gruff guy that people, if you loved Norman, it meant you were a hard worker, by the way. If you didn't like Norman, it was because you were lazy. It's point blank. Jimmy, can you agree to that? Admiral Jim Watson, who's also on our board, was one of Norm Lemley's mentees. Norm Lemley bailed me out when I was 21 years old. I was either going to Leavenworth, going in uniform, or joining an LNG tanker as an ordinary seaman. And oh, by the way, the security officer, but nobody can know. Guy got me out of trouble, and what he was doing is he set me up for success. And this number 19 was something he used to kid me about. Do you know the relevance of number 19, he'd say? It's the beginning and the end. It's the beginning and the end. Someday Google the relevance of the number 19. You'll be blown away. It's really stunning to me. It's shocking. With our 19 graduates, I have to tell you, it's been a tough 7 years. This has been tough creating a brand new college. Like nothing I've ever done in my life. Everything has always come easy to me. This hasn't been easy. There's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, literally. But there's one thing that came out of this in the number 19 concept, is in order to make change, the beginning, number 1, and the end, number 9, you have to engage with those 3 tenets of success, what you heard from Aaron, myself, and Vince. You know it well. There's no question. You're leaving here understanding those 3 tenets of success, those core values. You started, you began, this is the end, but it's also cyclical, the number 19. You're constantly in this cycle. So what ends today with this celebration begins a new you and new opportunities. And those new opportunities in this waterborne trade, this ocean-going trade, is truly remarkable from the sense of you are here in the place, the very birthplace of our industry for the United States. This is where it all started. This is where hey, guys, this is where it all started. Right here in this harbor. And what I love about the fact that it started here is it was started by a group of people that embraced humanity. I don't want to get religious on you because I'm not a religious guy. I believe in God, but I'm not a religious guy. The Quakers believed in everybody. They tolerated every religion, accepted every religion, accepted every people of every walk in life. Diversity was something the Quakers embraced. Accepted. They looked at each other and they thought, hey, there's my brother from, when you look at, if you've read Moby Dick or seen the movie, Queequeg from New Zealand. The Indians, the Native Americans, the African Americans, all religions worked on the whale ships of New Bedford and Fairhaven. The ocean, in fact, knows no borders. The ocean knows no borders. So when you go into this industry, go in with an open mind in a way of accepting and loving and caring about each other in ways that you can kind of impress upon others that you can influence for the positive. Be better. Be kind. Be polite. Love one another. Love your shipmates. And I don't mean in the goofy sense. I mean just love people. Care about people. You're on a trajectory for success, guys. I'm going to tell you something. I look at our previous graduates, and they are doing amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a 100% job placement rate for our graduates thus far. Some of them may have left the actual industry and are doing related work, or there's even one kid doing carpentry with his dad, but he is a success story. And what I ask of you, all of you, students, families, friends, if you have somebody in your life that's looking for an opportunity, point them this way, because we care about our students in ways that no other college I've seen this. And I told you about my story before. The way we created Northeast Maritime Institute was, how would Eric DeWicki have succeeded in an academic environment if he were there? I couldn't do that at a big university. Nobody cared if I graduated or not. As a matter of fact, they would pass me as long as I could catch a football. When I stopped being able to catch a football, you're gone. But somebody from this industry cared enough about me to put me on the right path. And my career has been, I'm the living, breathing Forrest Gump, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot believe my career. I wake up in scenes and I'm like, is this actually me in this scene, this situation? Meeting with prime ministers and presidents and ministers all around the world, thinking, who the heck am I to be here? I never figure it out to this day. But it's because other people cared about me. When Dr. Patton says, you're standing on the shoulders of others to succeed, that's true. Accept that and run with it. Embrace that. It's not all about us. And then be there for the next person to lift up on your shoulders. That's a beautiful attribution of what you learn here. And think about what you've gone through as individuals to be here today. I look at each one of you, and I know your stories more than you realize, because I want to make sure you succeed, and I really want to make sure that we give you the tools as individuals to succeed. And I know each one of you had your own struggle in a certain sense. And I know you were given support, whether you knew it or not. Some of you I was involved with more than others. Some of you needed that involvement. Some of you I might have kind of knuckled down on. Not, actually, I don't think any one of you ever got in trouble with me. Not even you. Zach would come and, I gotta tell you, Zach Davies, walk in the room, I'd be having a bad day, and he would light up the room. You want to see a smile, ladies and gentlemen, right here. This kid lifted me up more days than I lifted him up. Zach now works for us, doing very amazing work, hunting UN sanctions violators in the most extraordinary database I've ever seen in my life. Zach's a computer kid. He's good. He's a hunter. So, from me to you, and my family to you, do well, represent your school well, but represent your industry even better. Because a lot of people sacrificed for you to get here today. And I don't even mean the people that you know. We're talking generations and generations and generations. Our goal is to honor the mariner honor you. And when you see another mariner out there that needs to be reminded how important he or she is, please remind them and shake their hand and remind them to honor the mariner, honor themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of graduation, and thank you so much for being here, and bravo Zulu to the graduates.